Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. In today's episode we are going to be working on the Discovery 3, fitting the brand new coil conversion kit from Dunlop that fits Discovery 3, Discovery 4 and Range Rover Sport. Now this thing weighs a ton, so let me just put that down over here. Now, I want to talk a little bit because we have already done a coil conversion with the Dunlop springs on the Discovery 3. But as soon as we fitted it, Dunlop brought out a brand new kit. Now it's aimed at later Discovery 3s, Discovery 4 and Range Rover Sport. And the reason they brought out a new one is because the weight rating on the Discovery 3 changed at 2007 models and onwards, and it got heavier. So ultimately it needed heavier springs, a little bit of more calibration on the shocks. And so they brought this kit out. Now essentially it's the same fit, but I have been a little bit concerned, as you've seen if you looked at the previous videos, and I'll put links up or down or around so you can see when we actually fitted the coil conversion kit. Now our Discovery is 2005, so it doesn't fall into the bracket that these springs were designed for, but because it's all weight related, we do have a 7-seater. We've got a full tow bar on there, a braced tow bar, so we have got extra weight. And with us going to the Alps or slash John O'Groats, we're doing this big road trip, it's going to be loaded up heavy. So I'm wondering whether we can eliminate the droopiness that we've got on our vehicle by adding these spring conversion kits. So we're going to start with the rear. I'm going to do a little video now around it so you can see what I'm talking about with the droop. So the camber has been corrected as much as it can. It's been fully tracked, but we're still sitting a little bit droopy. So we're still sitting out like this. Now the vehicle handles nicely, but under a lot of weight, it is really sagging. And I think that's because we've got a heavier vehicle than is standard. So if you've got a 5-seater Discovery 3, the original springs would be perfect. I'm not saying these are going to be great. They might be too firm and they might knock our teeth out, but we've got the opportunity to fit them. Dunlop have given us a set to try, so we're going to put those on. Now it uses the same disabling ECU for the off-road air suspension adjustment, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And hopefully all our nuts and bolts, because we've done a full rebuild on the back of the Discovery 3, everything should come apart pretty easily. So we're just going to get in there quickly now, get the wheel off, take the old shock out, and we're going to compare the two and just talk a little bit about it. We'll get them fitted and see. Hopefully you can see now how the wheel is kicking out. It doesn't look awful today, but when you can see on there, and I'll put a line on the screen and see if you can see just how we're sitting. So that's where we are now, which is not ideal because there's absolutely no weight in the back there. It's always a bit off-putting, I think, when you just fit all new nuts and bolts like we have here and they're already going rusty. So you do have to lube everything. They've been lubed on the top. We can get access to all 3 of those. I've had to lube the drop link or the tie rod. So this tie rod here we're going to have to remove or loosen off just one end, and that had gone rusty, so we'll get that sorted. And then everything else hopefully should be all right. And you have to remove your air sensor arm, so we'll get that off. It's just a rubber connection, so hopefully that'll come off there. There we go. So I'll start stripping things off, and then we're going to compare the shocks and see how they look. So I've just remembered, I think these are 15s. Yeah, and when I did it last time, I used Steve's 15 ratchet spanner, which I don't have, so it's going to take me an absolute age to get 3 of them off. So I will pause the camera and come back to you in a moment. So I've taken the back nut off the top, just because it's the hardest one to get to. To be fair, I'm being a bit lazy because it's a lot easier to get to that rear nut if you lower your spare wheel. But because these are all brand new, it doesn't take a lot of torque to get them undone, so I can just work it with the spanner. So I've done that. But if you're doing it for the first time and you've got really corroded nuts on there and studs, you definitely want to be dropping that spare wheel carrier. It gives you so much better access. I put my jack underneath and then it won't drop on me, and that nut should come off easier now. Just taking the pressure off it. So in theory, when I drop this, it should slide out. There we go. There. Whew. Okay, it's not impossible. You just got to twist the bottom of it to sort of clear. Probably should have done a nicer job of getting rid of some of that corrosion in there, so I'll do that before I put the next one in. So let's have a little comparison on these shocks. First thing really noticeable is the thickness of the spring. So I'm guessing this is 100% an uprated spring. It is thicker than that. 21, 19. So 21 mil gauge, 19 mil gauge. So there's a big difference. Doesn't sound like a lot in spring terms, but it will make a big difference. With the old one, we had to put a 10 mil block spacer in there. But what I've just noticed is the new one is actually the same length without a block spacer. So again, that is another bonus for us. It can only go in two ways because obviously you've got the bolt that's got to go through the bottom. So let's try and get that in. Twist it in, and this is a proper finger pinch job. Okay, that was all right. Okay. Okay, I can see two of them. Let's get these on. The reason I can't see the back one, I think, is because it's got to go that way for the threads to poke through. Right, so just get your jack in there to support it, spin it round until all the holes line up with your studs, and then you'll be all right. So that wasn't too bad. Trick here is just to put a little bit of pressure or lift on that knuckle. Right, in the lower control arm. Okay, and we're in. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that, but that is in. Now, you have heard me say a lot of times that I don't like coloured items and certainly springs on vehicles, but on the Discovery, I really don't mind. I think they look so much better than the standard black. Beefier, I'm really hoping they're going to solve our issues. So we've tightened up all of our nuts at the top. We've got our main bolt in the bottom. I put the sensor cable back on. I put my drop link tie rod back in. Everything's tight, so just get the wheel on now and we'll drop it down and see where she sits. Well, at the moment it's looking like we have solved our issue, but it hasn't settled yet. But you can just see there, look, the rear wheels are definitely flatter and the camber's nowhere near as much as it was. Obviously there is going to be some kick out because that is the way the suspension works, but a lot happier. So obviously that job was a lot easier for me because everything's come apart before, so it was just a case of taking off all the nuts and bolts, which were easy. Difficult to take away from this what we've achieved, because obviously we had a great setup before, but for whatever reason I think our vehicle is suffering from overweight, like its driver. We've got that full braced tow bar on the back there that isn't light. We've got obviously the spare wheel, which everybody has, but we have got the 7-seat option, so we're carrying more weight in the back, and it's only going to get worse when we start loading it up with gear for our trip. So in my opinion, I think that regardless of what year your vehicle is, if it's a 7-seater and you've got a tow bar, I would go for this uprated version because I think the spring rate is perfect and I think you get a better sort of riding position. You don't get such a kick out. Now, if you've got a 5-seater like I had before, had the commercial, that was a lot lighter in the back, and the original suspension would have been perfect because I wouldn't have compromised the ride. It would have been jolting about loads because it would have been too stiff with these springs in. But because again we've got the heavier vehicle, so if you've got a Discovery 3 that's 2007 or beyond, including Discovery 4 and Range Rover Sport, this kit is the perfect replacement for your air suspension, and it really does give you a lot of benefits, and it decomplicates everything, which now, you know, you're looking at 20-year-old components on there, and it's quite a complex system and it's expensive to replace. A lot of people don't mind the cost of replacing the air suspension because it is one of the most fantastic things about the Discovery, but for me, I didn't need it. I don't mind it being Coil, and I'm really happy with the results. So we're going to give this obviously a big test on our trip, and then I'll probably be able to give you a more informed opinion. But for now, regardless of whatever year your Discovery is, if you've got Discovery 3 and you've got a 7-seater with a tow bar, I'd go for this uprated kit instead of the original, and you'll be really pleased.